What's up, everybody? It's Gary V, and this is the Sports Card Strategy Show, because you know this, there is no off-season.
No off-season! When you get into this game, the reason why you pay someone like Paul Hickey to get your sports card strategy together is because when you're starting out, you need perspective, you need wisdom, you need insights. And so he's been around the track enough times where he can actually coach you up and guide you. Doesn't mean he's going to take you to the promised land tomorrow, but you now have a coach by your side that can advise and kind of even create these pathways where you can get the education yourself. And that's a lot better than thugging it out on your own.
What? The kids better buy my rookie card now, because after this year, the price ain't coming down.
Welcome in, everybody. I'm your host, Paul Hickey. It's time to sit back, listen, learn, and earn with me on the Sports Card Strategy Show. Happy Thanksgiving week 2025, nooffseason.com fam. It's time to listen, learn, and earn on the Sports Card Strategy Show. I'm super thankful for all of you being listeners of the Sports Card Strategy Show, and we're going to have a great show today. I'm also thankful for Arch Manning putting up 6 total touchdowns this weekend, 4 through the air, almost 400 passing yards. He caught a touchdown on a trick play, and then he also rushed for one in a big win at home. And get ready, Lefty McKee, because my guy Arch Manning hosts your Texas A&M Aggies this upcoming weekend in a game that really could finally be the game for Arch Manning to vault his card value, or Marcel Reed. It could be a Marcel Reed to the moon, or it could be Arch Manning to the moon this upcoming weekend. But we're going to have a great show today. Data-driven sports card investing is what we're all about at nooffseason.com and the Sports Card Strategy Show. So welcome in. We're happy to have you with us to help you make money flipping sports cards. Today's show, we're going to talk about several different kinds of hobby topics that we don't normally talk about. And we're going to get to that data-driven sports card investing from our player rankings to help you make money. So get ready for that. We'll talk about the updates to the estimated PSA turnaround times that were announced this week. Typically, we're not a hobby news show, but there are 2 big hobby news announcements and then a third minor one that we want to talk about just to clarify our stance on everything and what strategies we think you should take. So one of them is the updates to estimated PSA turnaround times. The other one is the Probstein Scandal. It's been out of the hobby news this week. We're going to fill you in. If you're always locked into hobby news, you know what I'm talking about, so stay tuned for that. There is a massive shill bidding scandal with Rick Probstein and his new platform that he launched. So we're going to clarify some of the news, and we're going to give not our hot take, but we're going to give our strategy on what this means for you. Not necessarily what this means for the entire hobby, but what this means for you, the intelligent sports card flipper, and what to do about it. All right. So again, we're not a hobby news show, but when there is hobby news that we think we need to clarify our take on and then give you a strategy, that's what we do. So one is the PSA updated turnaround times. Another one is the Probstein Scandal. How about this? Topps Chrome basketball pre-release this past Wednesday happened, and we know not to rip wax, but can you flip wax? That's what we're going to talk about on today's show. I've got a PSA offer versus a PSA auction that I want to give you an update on, because I think that topic is going to be one, especially with the estimated turnaround times at PSA getting longer. I think that getting the grade reveal at PSA and then determining, should I accept an offer or should I auction it or should I ship it back to me, is going to become a bigger strategic topic for all of us at nooffseason.com and the Sports Card Strategy Show. All right. PSA unveils an all new price guide, which is an interesting tool. That was kind of the smaller third bit of news that we're going to talk about today. And then Centering School has launched at nooffseason.com. That's something that we've recorded from the Sports Card Strategy Show as well as the premium pod. So we are taking all of our how to center various card lessons, and some are obvious and some are harder in terms of how to find the centering on different cards. So we've launched that at nooffseason.com. Definitely check that out. In the interest of keeping our strategies and plays exclusive to a small group of premium members, We're capping our total membership number to 500 paid members at any given time. Now, many of you have listened to the Sports Card Strategy Show for a long time and have thought about subscribing, but have been waiting for whatever reason. I don't know why you're waiting, because your wait is over. Don't let someone else grab your spot. There's only 11 spots remaining at nooffseason.com. We made this announcement about 6 weeks ago. The spots have been filling up big time. Now, it is a little bit of an investment. It's about $300 a year or $30 a month, okay, depending on what package you choose. But it is well worth it, because when I follow my tried and true strategies that nooffseason.com members have access to, and not just the strategies, but the automated tools, and I'll talk about the automated tools in a second, that help you buy the right card for the right player at the right time and sell your cards at the right time, okay? That's what it's all about. Those two aspects, making money on the buy side and then also selling at the right time. When you purchase our tools, you will make back close to 5 figures for the year if you do it the right way. So if you're spending $300 and then you're making back close to 5 figures, that is well worth it, okay? So stay tuned for more on that. Again, our brand promise at nooffseason.com, we help you make real profits flipping sports cards with insider data, proven strategies, and exclusive access to undervalued cards before the rest of the market catches on. We just launched our new My Athletes feature. Okay. And again, here's a little bit of a recap of what the My Athletes feature is for those of you who missed last week's episode. But again, we think you should go back and listen to last week's episode if you missed it. Okay. It basically helps you track the top auctions from eBay for the athletes that you want to follow. So right now, who am I after? Shohei Ohtani. All right. It is the holiday dip right now. It is Thanksgiving week. What is the definition of the holiday dip? It is the week of Thanksgiving through New Year's. Okay. You got 3 holidays in the holiday dip, 3 main holidays. Thanksgiving, you've got Christmas, of course, Hanukkah. Okay, Hanukkah is part of that. My mother was Jewish, so hey, listen, Hanukkah is on my radar. Okay, so the holiday dip, and then New Year's Eve. Okay, so Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's Eve. In no particular order, you should be targeting your top athletes and the top eBay auctions specifically for your top athletes. And basically, now we've automated a way to do that. nooffseason.com. When you log in as a premium member, boom, you see the My Athletes feature right here. And here are the athletes that I am following: Anthony Edwards, Caitlin Clark, Jaden Daniels, Kobe Bryant, Lamine Yamal, LeBron James, Luka Doncic, Michael Jordan, Patrick Mahomes, Paul Skeens, Shohei Ohtani, and yes, Tom Brady, okay, from the dark side, U of M. But those are the athletes that I'm following at nooffseason.com. I highly encourage you to become a premium member of nooffseason.com so that you can do exactly what I'm doing. Okay. Now, we only have 11 spots remaining. We're going to launch our sell alerts feature coming up soon. And man, we're going to continue to launch great features for you without raising the price. So what more can you ask for? Okay. So now let's get into, I think probably the biggest news topic in the hobby, and it's a huge scandal, and it's Rick Probstein. And I want to clarify a few things because, some people who just kind of read headlines or skim don't necessarily realize that this did not happen on eBay. Okay. This did not happen on eBay. This happened on Rick Probstein's own platform called Snipe. Okay. So the way that he spelled it, SNYPE. So as I understand it, and I hope I'm not getting any of the major details wrong, but I could be getting some of the minor details wrong. As I understand it, Rick Probstein built up his own platform and launched it last week called Snipe. Okay. So for nearly 21 years, according to Sports Card News, so credit to Sports Card News. We don't talk about them very often, but I want to give them credit because they have reported on this. So Sports Card News, they have a relatively large following. Okay. And, some of their content I don't necessarily love. Some of their content, they do great. And this is I think, an example of what they've done well in terms of following this story. Okay. So just the facts from this story. I think they've done a good job, at least reporting on what they believe are the facts. truly. Okay. So according to them, Rick Probstein spent 21 years on eBay selling nearly $1 billion worth of cards. Last month, he took the leap and launched his own auction platform, Snipe. On Monday, the first auctions closed and everything fell apart. This is according to Sports Cards News on X. Okay. Probstein did announce that they were experiencing a system-wide technical issue due to high volume. Okay. So that is a statement that essentially lends credibility to themselves, right? While basically deferring the technical issue over to popularity. But apparently that wasn't the real story. There's a Pokemon forum user that discovered that Snipe's entire backend database was exposed to the open web. Apparently it didn't have any authentication required, and anyone with basic technical knowledge, again, this is according to Sports Card News on X, could access full bidder and consignor information, names, emails, addresses, birth dates, payment information, and complete bid histories. Okay, so that's bad in and of itself. But here's kind of the worst part, I think, from the hobby standpoint, is that essentially Rick Probstein, his wife, and a known scammer, Kevin Burge, had accounts in Snipe. And one of the accounts had placed 11,277 bids. That was Rick Probstein's email account linked to the username Honey Bunny. So, and in total, 1,331 auctions were allegedly impacted. Total bids placed across them, 29,000, totaling 1.28 million in bids. 96 auction wins, quote unquote, are attributed to flagged accounts. So basically, there has been like a lot of, as you can imagine, there has been a lot of backlash. Some people defending Rick Probstein, some people just basically continuing to pile on the negativity in terms of, shill bidding in the hobby. Okay. And, in a minute, I'm going to give my takeaway, which is more of a strategy in terms of what we all need to do, because while this is here's my hot take. Okay. While this is all definitely very concerning, illegal, immoral, definitely something that none of us should ever do in any way, shape, or form. And it's not super surprising to me. And here's why. Number one, we've seen this happen before in the hobby. We've seen PWCC, now known as Fanatics Collect. Fanatics Collect. We've seen them get involved in a alleged shill bidding on eBay, and then eBay kicked them off the platform. They had already had their own platform, but that was kind of the tipping point for them to get off of eBay and only focus on, what is now Fanatics Collect. At the time was PWCC. So we've had that happen. That was a big scandal in the hobby. There's been obviously a lot of theft at card shows, like literal theft at card shows where people, thieves have walked up to dealer tables and just stolen from dealers. There's been not literal theft, but figurative theft. Actually, a better word would be greed. Okay, a better word would be greed. Greed at card shows where you have dealers just jacking up prices, really for no reason other than just to kind of show off their cards. I've talked about that on the Sports Card Strategy Show in terms of, what I believe its impact on the hobby is. That's obviously not as big of a deal because, no one's committing a crime when they do that, but it does have an impact on the hobby. Okay. And so what it all boils down to is that word greed. Okay. It boils down to the word greed. So with Rick Probstein, to me, this is someone who obviously is in a situation where it sure looks like they have done something immoral and illegal. And, there will, I think there will and should be some type of punishment for it, for that act. Okay. And for whatever other acts are uncovered as part of this, because it's definitely a good thing that this was exposed. It's definitely a bad thing for the hobby. Okay. So greed is at the center of it. All right. Another part of my hot take is that I don't know why anyone thinks they can get away with this kind of stuff. I mean, unless you've been under a rock for the last 10 years, Netflix and the other streaming platforms have had so many scammer movies and documentaries and limited series that have just absolutely had the best ratings. You've got so many different scam artists that have been uncovered and featured on the streaming platforms. It's clear that, you're not going to get away with it. If you're this type of scammer, scamming people at this level where there's millions of dollars at stake, you are not going to get away with it. So, it doesn't surprise me because of the greed, but it also, in a way surprises me that people think that they can get away with this in this day and age. It's just, so I'm going to stop my hot take there. Now let's get into, and there's a lot more at sportscardradio.com. So Sports Card Radio also is an account that I don't talk about a lot. But they have again, like Sports Card News, some of their stuff I don't like, some of their stuff I like. I think they've done a good job following this at sportscardradio.com and documenting. So if you want all the details in terms of like the dollar amounts involved and the actual, like they've actually uncovered and posted a lot of the forum posts, and they've embedded their X feed on there and everything like that. Sports Card News is basically being credited at sportscardradio.com. So they're doing a good job uncovering this together and, talking about who's involved, what they've done and everything like that. So here's the deal. What do we do about this? Okay. Well, I think number one, we need to understand that this was not on eBay. Like, again, this was not on eBay. eBay, like, can stuff like this potentially happen on eBay, especially with consigners? Sure, because if you think about a consigner, there's nothing really in place to stop. Even though eBay sort of has an algorithm that can prevent against stuff like this, there is nothing really in place to stop, say, you sending your card to a consigner and then bidding on it from your own eBay account. There's also nothing really to stop you from starting multiple eBay accounts that can bid on that. Now, is that to your advantage ultimately? No, because if you win one of those cards and it doesn't get paid for because of you, then you lose. Or if you win and then you pay for it, then you pay for it. Now, is that an improper comp? Sure. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's not a huge win for you. So, we definitely discourage that type of behavior. Is there anything to stop that type of behavior? Not really. Now, does it have an impact? Sure, because like, let's say there's somebody out there who sends in a Anthony Edwards Silver Prism PSA 10 from 2020 that I want to win. And, let's say it dips to, in the holiday dip, let's say it dips down to what would be a $600 card. But because that person sees that, they bid on it and they create multiple accounts to bid on it on eBay through a consigner. Then all of a sudden, because of their shill bids, it rises up to be an $850 card, and then I win it. Does that affect me? Yes, absolutely. And is that market manipulation? Yes. Is that bad? Yes, 100%. So I am saying that like that kind of thing probably does happen and probably can continue to happen. Although eBay, I think, is doing a better job trying to crack down on that kind of thing through their fraud department and their algorithm and everything like that. Okay. Now, is that in any way related to what's happened with Rick Probstein? No. And that's what I want to clarify. What happened with Rick Probstein is purely on his own platform that he launched, that he had a lot at stake launching, called Snipe, spelled with a Y. And so he was able to manipulate that in a number of ways because he built it with some of his partners, right? And because he probably invested quite a bit of money into building that. I am a software developer, so I do understand how much money can go into these platforms. And if he's trying to replicate something like Fanatics Collect or something like eBay, then this guy definitely had, possibly 8 figures invested into this, at least 7 figures, possibly 8 figures invested into this platform. Okay. So now we're in a situation where he's got a lot at stake financially, personally, and he feels like, look, and I'm not trying to justify this, but he probably feels like, look, I've got to launch this thing with way more users than I actually have. And even if I have enough users, they're probably not enough active users because I'm competing against eBay, I'm competing against Fanatics Collect. And, while I do have some admiration for the drive that it takes as an entrepreneur to compete against these larger platforms, do I think that's smart? No. Because I think this is a perfect example of David going up against a Goliath, a very reputable, credible, I would say Goliath with integrity. And I'm talking about eBay. Integrity. Okay. And so now you're looking at a person who unfortunately showed a lack of integrity, to say the least, in launching their platform as a David going up against the Goliath, to use that comparison. And now we're in a situation where obviously he felt like it wasn't going well in the initial launch, the user acquisition, the active user acquisition, and he had to shill bid to try to get past the launch so that he could get some positive media coverage on the sales that he had on his platform. And then that would really effectively launch real active users for him. I mean, we've seen this happen in all the Netflix and Hulu and name your streaming platform, documentaries and movies about scamming. Like this is how scamming goes. You don't have what you need in order to launch something, and you're driven by greed instead of saying, look, we weren't successful in our initial launch. We're going to work harder to do better and do it the right way. People take shortcuts, and I'm really glad that they get caught. NoOffseason.com, the Sports Card Strategy Show, has taken 0 shortcuts, and we're very proud of that. We're very proud of all of you. And so now let's get to the strategy behind this. Okay. What can you do? Well, I think number one, let's be careful about buying from consigners on eBay, right? I think let me back up. Number one, and this should shock no one because I've literally said this for like the last 3 years. Buy through eBay. Like buy on eBay auctions. eBay protects the buyer. So if you're in a situation where for whatever reason you don't want the item that you got, or you got the wrong item, even if it's, and this is not necessarily always fair to the seller, but even if you feel like as the buyer, your item was, inaccurately priced due to maybe some shill bidding, like you can file a report and try to get your money back and try to issue a return. So like, who knows about other platforms? But what we do know about eBay is that they protect the buyer. And so you can feel safe bidding on the items that you want to bid on eBay. And again, nooffseason.com and our My Athletes feature, that's why we built that feature. I'm not just sitting here promoting my feature on my website. I'm telling you, I built that feature for myself to track the best eBay auctions for the right card for the right player at the right time. And now I've launched it to all of you. Well, if you're one of the next 11 to get in at nooffseason.com, then I've launched it for you. Okay. But even if you're not, I'm going to continue to talk about it on the Sports Card Strategy Show for free to help you out. Okay. So continue to buy on eBay. But I think 1B is, and this is where I had started, 1B is maybe be more cognizant of if the seller is an auction house. And maybe do your research a little bit around that auction house. If they're a smaller auction house, quote unquote, like, but also very reputable, like Quick Consign, for example, is a good one. There's several like quote unquote smaller auction houses. Probstein was one of the bigger ones. At one point, PWCC was one of the bigger ones, now known as Fanatics Collect. My guess is that you're not going to see many Probstein auctions on eBay do well. You're going to see them flagged. You're going to see people kind of stray away from them. You should probably do that as part of maybe 1C. Okay, so when buying, buy on eBay, research your seller to see, like, are they a huge auction house? Then if you proceed because you really want that card, just be careful on how many bids are on that card. What's the value of that card compared to the last auction? How many auctions have closed recently for that card that you're bidding on? And who was the seller? Okay. Because if you're looking at, I think now we can't just look at comps. We have to look at who the seller was of those comps. Okay. We can still just look at comps if we're averaging them out. But if there's one comp, two comps, and we're going off of limited comps, then I think we need to say, okay, who was the seller on that? Now, what are tools that easily help you do this? Well, number one, our card analyzer and predictor tool at nooffseason.com. Number two, market movers. If you want to use market movers, they say who the seller is, and then you can click on that listing. If it's eBay, you can click on the listing, and you can do that at nooffseason.com also. So tools that help you figure out quickly who the seller was of the last comps. So I think we need to go continue to do our research on who the seller was. We can't just go on one or two comps anymore because they could be manipulated. We have to go on an average of comps. We have to go on who the seller of the comps were, and we need to do a better job ourselves weeding them out. And I say that to the nooffseason.com fam because we are the detail-oriented people in this hobby using data to make money flipping sports cards. And this has always been the case, but some of the data can be manipulated. That's always been the case. And now I think this Probstein thing just brings it back to our attention. It brings it back to the forefront. Some of the problems that this hobby has already had. Now, there's going to be some people that are going to be like, the hobby's falling apart. The sky is falling. This ends everything. No, it doesn't. We've already had the FBI involved in our hobby. We've already had, okay. So am I saying that just because there's another big scandal that it's no big deal? No, but I'm saying, should it deter us in the nooffseason.com family and the Sports Card Strategy Show audience from doing what we do? No, we need to get right back to doing what we do with the advice that I just gave you, and I think we're going to be fine. All right. So, but I mean, props to everybody in the hobby who's trying to do the right thing, who's trying to give the right information, accurate information. As with any scandal, there's people coming out of the woodworks and their true colors are coming to light. A good friend of the show, Jeremy Lee, made a post on his Sports Cards Live. So his YouTube show is Sports Card Live, and his Instagram handle is J Lee Sports Cards Live, I believe. And so he had a different reaction based on other people's reactions to Rick Probstein. And, he called people out for a totally different reason. So I mean, props to people like Jeremy and other people in the hobby who are paying attention and saying these are ancillary things going on, but they have a big impact. They have a big impact on not only the hobby, but how we treat each other. And so I think that anytime there's negativity that comes out like this, we all react differently. And I would encourage all of you to not think that the sky is falling, but understand that, like, greed is human nature. Things happen because of greed. And then people get defensive and people start to say mean things. And what I want everybody in our community to do is just kind of look at that and go, hey, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to keep it positive, and I'm going to keep doing what I do. And that's what I'm trying to do here. So with that in mind, let's get to our next segment of the day. And that is, I don't want you to rip wax, but can you flip wax? And so I've talked about Topps basketball that is launched. We talked about, should you buy it? Should you not buy it? And a lot of times, well, all the time, I go back and I look at, okay, was I right or was I wrong? And with Topps basketball, I told everybody to fade it. But the reality is that anybody who bought the wax in the pre-sale for Topps made about 50 to 60% if they just flipped the wax. Okay. And so with the pre-release of Topps Chrome basketball, if you did buy the wax in the pre-sale Wednesday, which was November 19th, if you got a hobby box or a, what's the stupid thing called? Jumbo. If you got a hobby box or a jumbo hobby box, then you're probably in a situation based on the early eBay pre-sales flips. So for example, the jumbo was going for around just under $700, I believe. And now it's pre-selling on eBay for over $1,000. The hobby box was going for $369. It's now pre-selling on eBay for $500. So eBay, the secondary market, the pre-sale direct from manufacturer, those wax flips are definitely things that you could take advantage of for releases like Topps Chrome Basketball. Okay, for releases like Topps Chrome Basketball. I'm not saying go out and buy any Topps pre-release for NBA licensed product, but for Topps Chrome Basketball flagship release, we are seeing early data where, hey, this is a play. Now, does that give me confidence that maybe you could do the same thing with some of the pre-sales that are still available? Sure. But here's the thing, because they're still available, I think there's less of an opportunity to do it right away. You have to have some of these rookies play well. You're going to have some big pulls from breakers and things like that generate hype when these do hit the market for you to do well on the things like the value box, the mega box, and the hanger box. So the value box, the mega box, and the hanger box, you can still go to Topps.com and you can still get those from Topps in the pre-sale. So I think the good news is that if you go try to flip that wax, you're probably going to lose money, but you might not make money. If you were smart enough to say, hey, I've listened to some of the things that Paul has said leading up to this, because I was dropping some hints. I didn't go out and flag plant buy Topps Chrome Basketball NBA presale. However, I have to go back and double check the member Discord. I think I might have posted something on the member Discord like, hey, we should all go do this because we're going to be able to make money. I might have done that. I don't remember. I could be wrong. But if you have the same kind of intuition based on some of the things I was dropping, hints I was dropping without taking a flag plant, typically I'll take a flag plant for those of you that are new to the show. This one, I'm not going to come out and say that I did. I think I might have dropped something on the member Discord. I'll have to go check myself. But here's the deal. You're making some money. You're making some money because if you bought the Topps hobby box in the presale, Topps Chrome Basketball hobby box in the presale, then you're in a situation where you're already up about 50%. Same thing with the jumbo. So you can flip wax. I wouldn't rip wax, but you can flip wax. That's the answer to that question. Okay. Again, nooffs.com helps you make real profits flipping sports cards with insider data, proven strategies, and exclusive access to undervalued cards before the rest of the market catches on. There's only 11 spots left. We're a closed community of 500 serious card investors working smarter, not guessing, in a data-driven sports card market. Okay? Let's move on to some of the PSA offers that I've gotten and then the decisions that I've made based on the PSA offers. Okay, so this is something that I've talked about in recent weeks, sometimes on my own, sometimes with Lefty, but I wanted to bring up a situation where I got a grade reveal and I had an offer and I passed on the offer, and I'm glad that I passed on the offer, and here's why. So, and I'll talk about my process to kind of help you guys out. So I got a grade reveal on a 2018 Topps Chrome 1983 Shohei Ohtani. It got a PSA 9. It's a card that I've always liked. I've liked it from a raw to grade standpoint. The formula likes it from a raw to grade standpoint. You can make about 30% on it, according to our sports card rankings at nooffseason.com. For those of you who are wondering what I'm talking about when I say the formula, I'm basically referring to the formula we use to rank our sports cards at nooffseason.com in our sports card rankings. The only sports card rankings on the planet, by the way. So you can make about 27 to 30% on this raw to grade play. I bought one for $125 raw at the National. Thought it looked like it could gem. It got a 9. And I received an offer for around $150 on it. Well, I paid $125. And I looked at the recent comps and I thought, this thing's going for $215. I'm not going to take this offer. And I'm glad that I didn't, because I made much more money on it. It sold for $213.50. So I made right around $200 on it after fees, just under $200 on it after fees. So I made about $30 to $40 more dollars. And I did that without even having to receive the card, because instead of accepting PSA's offer, I just auctioned it off on eBay through PSA, which is clicking a different button. Okay, so one click of a button made $40 more dollars-ish than I would have. And I think that that's a good example for all of us in terms of the process. So if you get a PSA reveal and you're looking at, man, it would be great to accept thousands of dollars worth of offers right now. Before you do that and accept all of them, just go by one and look at it. Like, hey, even though I'm up, if I don't want PSA to ship me the card to do that additional work and everything, you could still auction it off on PSA's eBay account. And again, that's another one. That's a consigner. So, I mean, there's nothing out there stopping you from bidding on your own cards, but just don't do it, because then you're in a situation where you're more like somebody like Rick Probstein than you think you are. And Jeff Wilson, a good friend of the show and friend of mine, posted on his X account before the whole Probstein thing broke. He said, don't bid on your own cards. Just don't, and I agree with that. Just don't bid on your own cards. We've talked about that on this show before. We've had a debate about it because, some people bring up some good points about maybe when you can do it, where it's okay. And I always tend to think, pretty much not okay. All right. So I would say, especially after this Probstein thing, just not a good move. But, you're consigning through a reputable seller when you consign through PSA on eBay. Again, I talked about this earlier in the episode, but when you're buying on eBay, you're protecting yourself. Even if maybe there's some fake bids or some shill bids on a card that you win, you're still protecting yourself the best that you possibly can by buying on eBay. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Now, speaking of PSA, effective last Thursday, which was the day that PSA, so effective immediately, essentially, as of Thursday, PSA introduced updated estimated turnaround times at all service levels. And it was not good news. I'm not going to sugarcoat this, but I am going to give you a strategy. Okay. So TCG bulk, which we don't really do, went from 65 days to 95 days. Value bulk, which we do all the time for sports cards. And there's two different categories, pre-1980 and post-1981. 65 business days to 95 business days. So that's going to be the one we probably talk about the most. When you look at what does 95 business days mean? It means that if you, so there's like 25 business days-ish in a normal month. So if you're looking at 25, 50, 75, you're looking at 4 months now. Basically, you're looking at 4 months. It used to be like, hey, a month and a half. And then it went to 2 months. This is taking long, 3 months. And now we're at 4 months. Okay. So you're looking at 4 months before you get your cards back. And so now value went from 45 to 75. Value plus went from 25 to 40. So that's actually another big one that I wanted to talk about. When you have value plus going from 25 to 40, I think value bulk and value plus have been the two most negatively affected by this. And the reason why is because we used to say, because first of all, value plus used to be at $39.99 a card. It went up to $44.99 a card. And when it was $44.99 a card at 25 business days, it still made a little bit of sense because you were only paying $5 more to still get your card in 25 days. Now it's 15 more business days. So now you're in a situation where you're like 40 business days is back to really kind of where the turnaround time got to at one point in the last couple of years for the value bulk. So now you went from paying $19.99 a card to get your card back in around 40 business days. Now you're paying $44.99 a card to get your card back in 40 business days. So now there's really not an option that's affordable to get your card back in a reasonable amount of time if you're submitting multiple cards. And so I think to me, that is that is my takeaway from this. And I'm going to continue to read off the changes, and then we'll get back to the strategy based on what I just said. So the value max went from 20 business days to 30 business days. That's probably the one that was affected the least. Okay, so keep that in mind. Regular went from 15 business days to 20. Express went from 10 to 15. Super Express went from 5 to 7. And Walkthrough went from 5 to 7. Why do those not really affect us? Because those are all $150 or more. Express is $150 per card. Super Express, $299 per card. Walkthrough, which we've never done and never even really talked about, is $599 per card. So that's where, if you hit a 1 of 1 and you want to get it graded, or you hit a green kaboom out of 5 and you want to get it graded, or even a out of 10 kaboom, you want to get it graded, a card like that, right? Super fractor, and you want to get it graded. Like, yeah, it's sometimes now it starts to make sense to like fly to California and walk it through for $600 a card and get it back in 7 business days. But like, we're not at that level. All right. That's not a repeatable strategy. Because that's a once in a lifetime type of thing. So we talk about repeatable strategies on the Sports Card Strategy Show. And, getting back to my point earlier, what do we do with this news? Well, I think there's really just 2 takeaways here. A lot of people, again, like the Probstein thing, they're going to get involved in the crap. They're going to get involved in the weeds. They're going to throw stuff out there to make, to have an opinion, and it's going to end up backfiring and making themselves look bad, making other people feel like crap. And, I just don't get into that. So you're going to have people doing that same thing with this PSA announcement. You probably already have seen it. That's why I'm here to kind of clear things up and say, look, really all this does is it makes us think about which service to use and when to grade our cards. And it also makes us think, at what price point should we be buying cards? So I think we can still be buying cards raw to grade at the regular like budget price point. So again, like budget price point, I would put it, if you're buying cards $100 or less per card, all the way down to $5 per card, right? Even print on demand stuff that's like $5 to $10 per card. If you want to make a play on it, you still can. You just have to be, this probably, number one, takes out of play many cards under $25 per card, unless you're looking at our sports card rankings and you're seeing, Tiger Woods 2001 Upper Deck, Aaron Judge 2017 tops, Kobe Bryant 1996 tops. Why? Because those 3 athletes, like, they're solid. There's really not much that's going to happen with those 3 athletes that's going to deter you from making raw to grade plays on them if the card looks gradable. And so you're only grading cards if the card looks gradable anyway, right? You're only using our tools at nooffseason.com to help you understand which cards make sense to buy raw and grade. So in that case, this doesn't affect you very much. What it would affect would be probably weeding out many, if not all, print on demand plays, which we've already talked about doing. We've already talked about that in recent episodes anyway. So that's not a surprise based on this news. It probably weeds out quicker turn raw to grade stuff that isn't priced over, say, $500. So for example, would you now really want to grade a Bo Nix optic base? No. Would you really want to grade a Drake May optic base? No. Those would be riskier now. Are they still going to be listed in our sports card ranking? Sure, because they're still going to be profitable, but they're going to be riskier plays. Why? Because you're in a situation where, well, what if those guys pull like a CJ Stroud, or they just, they don't perform up to the hype, or simply that this new class of rookies that comes in 2026 supersedes the hype of the 2025 and the 2024 rookies that I'm talking about. And that always happens. So I think there's going to be less plays on current rookies, which I've always talked about. There shouldn't be anyway. There shouldn't be many anyway, because the market changes so quickly on them. And once we know who they are and we know what their supply and demand looks like a couple of years into their career, that's always the best point to start buying them anyway, raw or graded. Okay, raw to grade or already graded. So I think it does weed out several plays that you would potentially be making. I think you got to be more cautious now about first and second year athletes in all sports that you're trying to make plays on for cards under $100. It's just not going to economically make sense. And then the turnaround time isn't going to give you the first to the market presence that you need to meet the appeal, the supply and demand. Okay. That's the most concise way that I can say it. So I think you still need to use our sports card rankings for everything you do, but you need to start kind of weeding out those types of plays. Where you need to have your attention be is on more of the older cards, like I talked about. I gave you 3 examples a minute ago. And then I think that the value max level and the value plus level are going to come into play here. The value max might be the best level because I now want you buying raw to grade cards $500 and above. And there's plenty of them in our sports card rankings. I want you targeting sports card rankings at nooffseason.com, cards $500 and above. All right. Reason being is because even though this is a much higher price point, it's a situation where the cards in our rankings are going to put you in a position where if you grade them at the value max level, so you're paying about $30 more per card, but you're doing it, you don't have to do it on a bulk basis anymore. So even though it's $30 more per card, you might actually not spend as much money on grading because you're not going to be grading as many cards. You're going to be buying and grading more expensive individual cards at slightly more expensive service levels with PSA, but now you can still get them back in 30 business days. And you're in a situation where the market won't have changed that much during the time they've been at grading, which is very, very critical. And you're in a situation where because it's a more desirable card because of the price point, if it doesn't gem, you can crack it out and likely still sell it for a profit in the future. So this is a simple strategy in my mind. Hopefully I'm doing an okay job explaining it to you. If you have any questions, definitely go to nooffseason.com/ask and ask me, and I'll answer on the premium pod. I'll break it down in specific examples, but I will tell you this. I have profited more this past year than any other year that I've been flipping sports cards because I've been doing more of this strategy that I'm giving you right now. I've been buying higher dollar cards, more desirable cards for more desirable athletes, not going too wide. I've narrowed my focus. Okay. And so to me, the value max level, even though it's $60 per card, and it's going to be closer to 100 after all the shipping and everything like that, the shipping fees that you have to pay to get your card back. It's going to be worth it because the card that you're buying now, all of a sudden, the percentage of grading versus the card that you're buying is still minimal, and you're going to get it back in 30 days. And you're going to get it back in a situation where you can still sell it for a profit, even if it doesn't get the grade that you want. Here's the other thing. You can request a minimum grade on these cards. You can request a minimum grade in these service levels. You can't do that with value bulk. And what I mean by that is for a value bulk submission, you can't say slab authentic only if it doesn't get a 10. Send back raw, even if it doesn't get a 9 or above. At these service levels, you can do stuff like that. And that can be important in these situations. All right. So right now, really value max is the one that makes the most sense, which means we need to be buying cards that are more expensive, or if in value bulk from our rankings at nooffseason.com, buying a select group of older cards for the top players whose value won't fluctuate over a period of 95 business days. If you like the content on this show and want more, go premium at nooffseason.com now to get unlimited advice answered on our Friday podcast for premium members called the Premium Pod. Go premium at nooffseason.com now. And again, you got to do it quickly because spots are running out. Are you ready to start grading your cards? CGC Cards is the perfect place to slab your favorite sports cards. From their crystal clear holders to their affordable pricing, CGC Cards is the perfect stop for your grading needs. Go to cgccards.com to start grading today. Remember, nooffseason.com is the only place on the planet with sports card rankings, updated in real time, sorted by the ROI percentage you're likely to make in the future. Go to nooffseason.com, where Centering School has just launched, okay? So we just talked a lot about sports card grading. How do you know if your card is centered? Well, a lot of the cards that I just mentioned on this episode, 2017, Aaron Judge tops base, 2001, Tiger Woods upper deck. We've even got how to center the 2024 Prism basketball and football sets. Okay, that's a big one. And of course, 2025 Bowman Chrome baseball. All those Centering School lessons are at nooffseason.com. We have also added cards to our sports card rankings. 2024 NBA rookies are now up there. So again, like I just said, you got to make sure you're not buying cards that are that are super, super cheap and then expecting to get them back right away. If you're doing that, you better be damn sure that this player that you're targeting is going to be valuable still heading into the next season. Why? Because it's going to take 4 months for you to get your cards back. However, we have added 2024 NBA rookies. We've also added legends like Barry Sanders, Tony Gwynn, Ryan Sandberg now have cards in our sports card rankings, among others. So go check that out. All right, lastly, on today's show, eBay has unveiled their all-new price guide. Collectors can now go to eBay and see a price guide for sports trading cards. This is going to be, it's in beta right now. It's going to be shown in various scenarios over the next several weeks. Let me know your thoughts on it, and I will let you know my thoughts on it as I see it more. But I did see it as I was bidding on a card the other day. As soon as I made a search for a Shohei Ohtani card, it actually gave me the most recent comps on eBay, which I had never seen before. So that was pretty cool. But again, card analyzer and predictor tool at nooffseason.com, the new My Athletes feature. We've got the only sports card rankings on the planet. We've got the inventory tracker. We've got a PSA image scan. We've got sports card school, Centering School now. Unlimited advice from me on the premium podcast. You can grade your cards through us, and don't forget top sports card auctions ending soonest, and our premium members only Discord, which if you do sign up at nooffseason.com, you earn member points to buy your way into that. We hope to see you there. Everybody have a great day. Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks so much for being here with us on the Sports Card Strategy Show. If you enjoyed the content on today's show, there's plenty more waiting for you at nooffseason.com. Just go to nooffseason.com right now. You get our formula-based sports card rankings, sports card school, inventory tracker, the ability to grade with us, and the premium podcast where we answer an unlimited amount of your questions. Check it out right now at nooffseason.com. For everyone at nooffseason.com, I'm Paul Hickey. Thanks again for being here with us on the Sports Card Strategy Show. We'll see you again soon. Have a great day.